Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I am delighted to bring my guest to you today, and his bio is incredible, so buckle up. Dr. Fab Mancini is America's #1 health and lifestyle media expert, Hay House's international best-selling author of The Power of Self-Healing, and host of his TV series, Thriving in the New Normal. He also has a popular radio show, Self-Healing with Dr. Fab, and podcast, The Fab Life. Dr. Fab is the best-selling author of Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, an internationally acclaimed educator, consultant, business leader, speaker, world-renowned chiropractor, and president emeritus of Parker University, plus mentor to over 150 CEOs. He has been featured on Dr. Phil, The Doctors, Fox News, CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC, Univision, Telemundo, and others. He's been interviewed in various documentaries and has received Humanitarian of the Year, CEO of the Year, and induction into the Wellness Revolutionaries Hall of Fame. Dr. Mancini is also a graduate of the Institute for Educational Management at the Graduate School of Harvard. Most recently, the president of Mexico named the library at UNEVE, Mexico's new leading university, after him. I mean, I had to cut this down. Welcome to the show, Dr. Fab.
You know, Lyndsay, it's so great to be here. And all I can think about when you say all of that is when I came here, my dad was unfortunately struggling with alcoholism, and my mom decided to move my 4 brothers and I to Miami, Florida for him to get treatment. And I remember my mom and dad telling us and saying, we're moving there to help your dad, but we're moving to the United States because this is where we want you to fulfill your dreams. You can be anything you want in this country. And all I can think is about those humble beginnings of it all started with the seed of possibilities. And really, that's what life is all about. But thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is my absolute pleasure. So you already kicked it off the way I like to start, which is the first thing I always ask is tell us your story. So you gave us a little teaser. Keep going.
Well, when we came to the United States, it wasn't all pretty. My dad got help, and thank God, after 6 months of treatment, he stopped drinking, which was a big blessing, and never drank the rest of his life. But then I went to school, and because they didn't have English as a second language, they put me back 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I was telling my parents, this is not good for me, 2 years of schooling. And then I realized I couldn't make friends because I didn't speak a word of English. And so it was socially a little bit difficult. But you know what? We kept pursuing. My parents were so positive, and my brothers and I kept saying, I still remember my older brother had gone to New York a year before, so he knew some English. And there was a TV series called Mork and Mindy. I don't know if you remember that.
Show. I love
And my brother was trying to translate, Mork, which is, he speaks so fast anyways. But anyway, so at 60 years old, I decided that I wanted to be a doctor. I had a dream that morning, and I'll never forget it. It was so vivid. I then went to pre-med school in Dallas, Texas. That's what brought me to Texas. And amazing school, the University of Dallas. They had a special program there that I was accepted in. And then as I was going to medical school and graduating, I was involved in a car accident. And the orthopedic surgeon at the hospital said, why don't you go see my doctor of chiropractic? Because he can help you better than I can. All I can give you is painkillers and muscle relaxers. Now, I thought it was a specialty of medicine. Little did I know that I was going to discover what I call the world of prevention. And as I was going through that care, I got better within 6 weeks. I interviewed over 62 chiropractors, and I made the decision not to go to medical school. I made the decision to go to chiropractic school. And then I studied acupuncture, then nutrition, then energy medicine. And in the world of wellness, as you mentioned, they pronounced me as one of the Hall of Famers in that space, is because I fell in love with the idea of helping people prevent illnesses by simply doing 2 things: shifting the way they look at health and illness, and changing behavior. And those 2 things can actually prevent, according to the experts, over 90% of our chronic illnesses today, which are #1 healthcare cause is the chronic illnesses, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, arthritis, obesity, chronic pain. So that's where I've been in the last 37 years of my life, just really passionate about contributing and inspiring people to really take a look at how they're living their life and making sure that they make better choices so they can fulfill a potential that they maybe not even think is possible.
Oh, I love all of this. And so let's just start it off. You work with a lot of leaders, and I love to talk about leadership. What has been some of the best observations you've seen from the best leaders you've worked with maybe how they care for themselves and how they care for their employees?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned this, because in most of the leaderships that I see out there, the caring for yourself is weak.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
I'm amazed of that, because you're dealing with individuals that have been the biggest disruptors in the world, individuals that are making hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. So a lot of times they sacrifice the things that truly matter, right? And the things, when you ask people, what are the three things that matter the most people will tell you family. Most people would tell you their faith. Most people would tell you their work or their passion, their careers. They may even tell you some other things, but those are the three primarily. And what I notice is in a lot of leadership, especially men's leadership, we've been conditioned that our self-worth equals to how much money we make. And that's absolutely wrong, as you know, because, and there's a lot of men. I tell you a very sad story. One of my neighbors, we lived in a beautiful neighborhood here at the Four Seasons in Dallas, Texas. And one of my neighbors was in the stock market, very famous man, very successful. But then we went through a recession. And all of a sudden, even though they were worth millions of dollars, he took a gun and killed himself, and his wife and two baby children found him dead in the living room. And when we asked his wife, what do you think he took his life? He said, well, he couldn't bear the fact that the market was going down and he couldn't see a way out. And even though we kept saying, honey, we don't care about money. We don't care about losing everything. We just want you. He never could get to that point. Now, what are some of the behaviors that they do good? That I can tell you, that is a passion of mine. So the first one is the leadership is individuals that recognize that their future is not determined by their current circumstances. You see, a lot of times, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader of a company, or you own your own business, whatever, many times you're going to deal with a tremendous amount of adversity, especially if you're a disruptor. People are going to most likely laugh at you, not support you, whatever the case may be. But if you believe in what it is that you're doing, you realize that the joy, the payoff is not in the outcome, it's in that journey. So you focus your whole entity in that pathway towards success. And then you don't get frustrated, you don't get disappointed, you don't get depressed when something is not working out. You pivot immediately and you realize, okay, if that didn't work out, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And one of the things I teach, because I had to teach it to myself, is that realize that the universe and God is always conspiring for your benefit. So if a door doesn't open, it's meant to not open. It's meant that another door is right there waiting. And I have proven that to myself so many times, to the point that now when something doesn't work, I get excited because I say, there's something better waiting for me. I'm thinking too small. And I trained myself that way over the years, and probably why I've been able to make the contributions that I have.
Well, you're such a positive guy, and I imagine you have to be deeply inspiring to all the leaders that you mentor. And I certainly love being around your energy and the way that you see the world. That's such a great reframe, looking at life, saying, okay, well, that didn't work, so there's something else better. And I think people get so stuck on, I have to complete this one thing, I have to do this, or else. And that or else, it's not or else. There is something else, but it's nothing's like, anyway, I just totally love that this is the way you see the world. So could you give some recommendations to my audience of what are maybe 2 or 3 things they could do to improve their health today?
Well, the one thing that I did in my fourth best-selling book is called The Power of Self-Healing. I brought into the world, and it became number one in over 10 countries, and all over the world. It's translated in 12 languages. The message was very simple. That health is based on three dimensions: physical, emotional, and spiritual. There could be a physical ailment that has a root cause in an emotional component. Let's say anger, resentment, stress. All of that has been proven by science. But also there's plenty of studies that have shown that if you're spiritually disconnected, meaning you have no hope, you don't think there's anything bigger than what you have in front of you in that mirror, that your body, even though it may be broken, there's no other way to help it, then unfortunately, that can also cause a tremendous amount of ailments, not only depression, suicide tendencies, anxiety, but also many broken physical organs and cells in the body. So the main thing is to realize that those three things are things that we have to pay attention. And what I recommend people is that every day, do something for your physical body, something for your emotional body, and something for your spiritual body. So for me, I take the first 2 hours of every day to get that done. So I get up early in the morning, and I get my physical workout done, which is about 40 minutes or so. Interval training is the best thing you can do. You go fast for 1 or 2 minutes, and then you go slow, then you go fast, you go slow. That's the way we train the Olympic athletes. Then I do something emotional. So I may listen to a podcast while I may working out. I may read something inspirational. I may call a friend or something. And then I do something spiritual. And the spiritual could be something I work on my purpose, right? My intention for that day. That's a very spiritual activity. I may do a prayer or a meditation. Both of them are very spiritual activities that really center you and make you realize. Or I may go with Karen for a nice walk, appreciating nature, maybe watching the sunrise, or if we're on the beach, like we were just in Cancun, getting up every morning to watch the sunrise is beautiful for us to do, or the sunset at night. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would encourage people is to encourage yourself to put health as a priority in your life. Because what happens a lot of times, and the reason I do it first thing in the morning, is because that's how I begin my day. My health is my biggest priority, and it has been forever. And everything else depends on how healthy I am. So think of yourself as a bank account. The more you deposit, the more you have to give to others. And many times, especially ladies that I work with, many times they're conditioned to want to give. And now, as you know, many of our ladies are running the biggest companies in the world. Their role has changed over time. Now they're not just managing their household, maybe managing a family and their children, or maybe managing their church or synagogue or temple. No, they're actually running the biggest companies in the world while they're doing those things. So I always tell them, hey, listen, if you love taking a bath, start the morning by taking a bath. Don't wait until the night because you may not have time. Start in the morning. I train them to lose the first time in the morning to feed themselves. If they want to run, if they want to do something spiritual, if they want to do something emotional, treat themselves first. Feed that bank. So then they have more to give to others. And that works extremely well for people over the years.
I love that. And my coach coaches us to have a morning routine, and her morning routine is chef's kiss. I'm not quite there yet, but I do definitely love to work out in the mornings. And I think I'm pretty good on the emotional side. The meditation side I'm working on. But I want to get better at that. And I know it's a process and you got to practice. And actually, I'm very encouraged by the amount of men that I am learning have incorporated meditation into their regular life. I think it's no longer perceived as this woo-woo kind of, granola crunchy thing. I think there's some real value and obviously scientific proof that it is so important. So I just love that. Can you talk a little bit about your TV show?
So what happened with the TV show is that I had a company based out of London that were creating a self-help digital channel. They're very big in that space for years, and they wanted to bring that into the digital world because during the pandemic, as you know, there were a lot of challenges where people were really stuck to their TVs.
Yeah.
They couldn't go outside. But there was really nothing a lot very positive to watch on TV. You notice that most of our docuseries or TV shows, they're just not very inspiring.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. They could be entertaining, but so this man decided to do that, and he wanted for me to create the first show for that channel. So I started thinking about what is it that I can do to bring some value to the world. And I came up with a concept of thriving in the new normal, which is the name of the TV show. And that TV show, what I did is that I started contacting all of my high-level achiever friends from different industries, from politics to non-for-profits to healthcare to sports to whatever. And I would ask him one question: what does it take, in your opinion, to thrive during this difficult time? So that was the whole discussion.
Love it.
So it was people that were amazing, and so I filmed it, and now it's still playing in all the digital channels, and it's actually done really well because it shows people that the circumstances that are running right now. Like, I give you an idea. So one of the people that I interview was Ivan Meisner. So Ivan is the founder of BNI, that is the Business Network International. This is a group that actually meets physical every week, and they have chapters all over the world. So when they actually were not able to do physical, he said, immediately I got my whole team together and we decided to go virtual. And all of our meetings, so they grew exponentially.
Yeah.
Just by doing that. And now they have a hybrid. They have people that meet virtually, and now that we're back, they have people that meet face to face.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together.
So having him discuss the fact that he wasn't going to allow what he worked so hard to build, he pivoted. And those are the kind of stories that give you perspectives that, like, oh, wow, I should maybe do that in my business, or I should do that in my life, or I should do that. But we talked about relationship experts. We talked about business challenges that people were having. We talked about the mindset. I interviewed Nick Vujicic, which is one of the top speakers in the world, that was born without arms and legs and written many best-selling books. Life Without Limits is one of my favorites. And we were talking about, Nick, what is the challenge here? And Nick was doing over 50 stadiums a year, and all of that got canceled immediately in 1 week. 50 stadiums, 60,000 average people in each stadium. That's how much he did every year. So all his income, all of his gigs, everything was based on that. So what he decided to do is he decided to move from California to Dallas. And then he decided to open up a virtual component. He decided to do a podcast. He decided to do YouTube channels. And he actually grew during that time. And he was saying, and now he's back to lecturing, and you see them all being advertised. But this is really what successful people do.
So I love that you brought that up, because I would love your take on, in my opinion, what I think is a very patriarchal slant on everyone must come back to the office. I mean, I'm seeing this happen with a lot of companies. All of the decisions I'm seeing are coming from men, but what's your take? And do you think this is necessary?
Well, it's interesting because I was reading a Forbes article that Forbes was doing a big analysis on this, because in the beginning, they were writing about whether this new wave of people working from home was going to work. And then all of a sudden, they started realizing that some of these big companies were now saying, hey, no, we need you to come back. In fact, it created a tremendous disruption in the workforce, because a lot of the people that were working from home did not want to go back. But then there was a few that wanted to go back. So my take is this: we have plenty of case studies that have shown that the ability of an individual to be productive, to be effective and efficient, does not depend on the work scenario. There are plenty of people that have done far more by being home and not having to commute, by being home and scheduling themselves, whether they have kids, whether they have a husband or a wife, whatever the case may be, they manage their time more productively. Their creativity soared. They were able to focus. They weren't worried about trying to get everything done. They made the time. Now, I got to be truthful with you. There were some people that showed in the studies that they weren't able to cope. They need a structured environment. They need somebody looking over themselves, over their work. They need a scenario by which they have people so they don't feel so alone, right? That emotionally they feel supported, especially in the team scenarios that a lot of companies have built is, open spaces where everybody has a small cubicle, but everybody can see what everybody else is doing. Those were the ones that were struggle. Those were the ones that struggled a little bit the most. But the ones that had their own offices and all that will realize. So I believe that for those CEOs that may be hearing me, is really evaluate that. But the most important thing that I have found, right, because I run 3 different companies, is what does that individual that is working with you,
how can you support your people,
feel themselves? Because at the end of the day, right, new studies have shown it used to be 70% last year, it's 80% this year. 80% of the people do not like or are disengaged from their work. So we're paying people.
The disengagement studies are enormous and
ridiculous.
It's really discouraging.
But we're paying people not to be there for us. That's what I find crazy.
I have to applaud you because you're walking the walk, and the reality of giving people a space and the support that they need to make those decisions will create a loyal employee. It will create someone that says, you see me, you see what I need. I do want to come into the office, but I want to come into the office like 3 times a month. Or, I'll tell you, I have a friend who's working for a very well-known company. They mandated all of the managers need to come back into the office 3 days a week. Do you know what happens? She walks in, she punches, does her badge swipe, waits 10 minutes and leaves. So that's what they've done. So you're checking boxes, but are you really helping anybody?
Well, and that's why I really believe so. I went from running 3 companies with over 400 employees to now running 3 companies with everybody virtual. So I can tell you from experience, but the bottom line is sit down with your employee. Think of them as an extension of your family. They're there to support you. You're there to support them. So that exchange needs to be authentic. It needs to be pure. And ask them the question, Mary, you've been working with us for the last 3 years. Because of these changes, we're trying to make a decision of what's best for our employees. Don't make it about our customers. Make it about our employees. What is it that you feel will be the best way where you can do your best work? Would it be coming back to the office full-time, part-time, or would it be staying at home, working the way we did it during the pandemic? And also remember, according to a lot of the experts, there may be another pandemic right around the corner. You never know. I mean, these things that happen, they're meant to happen again. So I tell all of my clients that any business you're in today, you must have a virtual or hybrid component. Don't ever put yourself in a position that just because physically you cannot run a business, now that business shuts down and now you find yourself without any income. Make sure that every business you have has a virtual component, whatever that may be. Create a company that's just virtual or diversified. And that is the way that many of them are doing it, and it's working really well because we don't know what the future may hold.
I totally agree. I mean, the only thing we can count on is change, right? So we know something will come that's going to
But
disrupt.
if it happened once, it can happen again. You see, there was no precedent to what happened with this pandemic. But we also know that we have environmental issues like hurricanes and tornadoes and all that are out of control, right? Things that we have never seen before that are happening. Something like that could come and destroy your area, right? We had a tornado that came and we have 14 buildings that destroyed 4 of our buildings, 4. So we have to completely rethink what we were doing. So that could happen to any business, wherever you may be. So just make sure that there's a virtual component that has a monetization to it, that you enjoy, you're passionate about, and don't depend all of your income on your physical ability to work.
Yeah, such good advice. Okay, so shifting gears a little, what inspires you?
You know, it's so interesting. I used to go to Disney World every year since I was young, since my parents took us, but I kept doing it as an adult. I would go before I had children, and then when my children came, I would take them every year.
Sure.
And what inspired me is that no matter when I went to Disney World, I would always walk out of there saying, I'm not thinking big enough. So my habit has been over the years to study people's biographies, to find out what was it that they had in mind, what adversity did they dealt with, how did they respond to that adversity, what was the outcome of their contribution. And that has been a pattern for me for over 25, 30 years. What inspires me is when I look at an example of an ordinary person doing extraordinary things.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me that we all have such a much greater potential that we're living. All of us do. I mean, I could ask you right now, hey, Lyndsay, is there one thing that you think you can do better to scale your business, to grow your business, to improve your relationships with your loved ones, whatever? All of us will say yes, right? All of us know that there's one or two things we could do, but we may not be doing it. And the question is, why don't we do it? Why is it that we do not do something? I mean, for me, in the world of health, as you know, if I could just say to people, and the example that I give is, you buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and you're going to go put gas, and the flap opens, and it tells you what kind of gas to put. You're always going to put the best gas possible, right? Because it's a high-performing engine. You can't just put the cheap gas or even diesel, right? Because it will destroy it. So then I think I tell them, what if your mouth had a flap that every time you open it, it says
only put the good stuff in.
Less carbohydrates, less sugar, no dessert today, whatever the case may be, then those choices is what makes you healthy. Now, if people would just reduce their sugar content, right? Just sodas, desserts, that in itself, the breads and all of that, that in itself will allow people to meet most of their ideal weight issues. And for most people, as you know, that could be 5 pounds, it could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 30, but for most people, it's not that big, So then the second thing I teach them is intermittent fasting.
That's what I do.
Because studies have shown, and New England Journal of Medicine just released a study a couple of years ago, that it was fascinating that even if you don't change so much what you eat, if you just eat within a 6 to 8 hour window, you have a much better chance to not only lose the weight, but actually instill in your body the ability to heal and regenerate properly, which was going to make you look younger as you get older. So it has so many benefits. So why is it that people are not doing it? So that's kind of like where I kind of
love it.
Let people know that there's always options. And if something is not working for you, then let's do something different.
I love it. Well, you've done incredible things, but what would you like your legacy to be?
Wow, that's interesting. For me, I've always felt that my legacy will be my family, my children, because I have been so blessed by having these two amazing kids that since the beginning, I just never took it for granted. My father was a great father, and in the early days, he struggled with alcoholism, and he made up for it the rest of his life, but made us realize that every stage of an evolution of a child is significant, and you don't have to be a perfect parent, I can tell you. And kids don't need a lot of time, they need quality time. And that's one thing that I've learned, and then the time also needs to be when they need you, not when you think they need you.
That's right.
Because one of the things that I did for all these years is that no matter what meetings I was, no matter where I was in the world, if my kids ever called me, I would always say, Lyndsay, do you mind if I take this? It's I take a couple of minutes, but it's my son and and he usually would not call unless it's important. And then I would say,
who's going to say, I mind?
Well, no, I'm going to tell you what happens. I say, hi, Gianni, how are you? And he said, Dad, do you have a minute? So I trained him to always ask me that. Yes. And I said, of course, honey, I have a minute. Yeah. And they say, oh, I'm going through this. Like one time he was going through a very difficult thing. I was in the middle of a meeting He was a tennis player. Some of his friends decided that they were going to go to, they were having a party in a beautiful neighborhood here. They decided to go to 7-Eleven they told the parents to get some ice. They invited my son to be with them. What they decided to do is while they were in the car, they decided that they were going to smoke some marijuana.
Sure.
So what they did is they parked behind the 7-Eleven, they rolled the window down, and they started smoking. Well, a cab pulled up, and my son was calling me right before and said that they're going to do this. What should I do?
Yeah.
I said, listen, why don't you tell them that your dad is already waiting for you at the house and you're just going to walk down and that you'll meet him at the house. So my son got off of the car. The police came.
And he wasn't
there. They took the kids to jail, right? They called their parents, and then the parents picked them up. My son, I told them I'll come and pick you up. He waited for me at the house. And then what's worse, these are two of the best players in tennis, right? These are all great players that were playing nationally. The coach, which was voted number 2 in the United States, kicked them off the team because he said that's not the example that you're going to give the ones coming behind you. And those kids never played tennis again.
Wow.
And they were, who knows, my son got to play D1 in college, third in the nation. He fulfilled all his dreams.
Amazing.
Right? So what if I hadn't picked up the call is what I'm trying to say to those of you that are parents. You never know when your kids may need you. Could be a life decision. It could be, Mom, I really like this boy, but he really wants to have sex with me. What should I do? It could be that, right? And then prevent a pregnancy.
And how you respond is so important because if you respond with, are you crazy? Like they will shut down,
always
never
calm.
come to you again. You have to be there and weather the storm and recognize teenagers make a lot of mistakes, but that's when
we
you
all
want
did.
them to
Look
make
at the
mistakes.
way we grew up. I mean,
we want them to make mistakes when they're teenagers before they get out into real life adults functioning in the real world. So that's the time where you.
But what's interesting is when I tell, like I've been with very influential people when this has happened. And the number one response I get is thank you for sharing that with me because you just taught me a big lesson. I don't do that for my kids. And my kids will tell you, I've been doing that since they were very young. Ever since they have phones, they can always call me no matter where I am. A lot of times it's just say, I love you, Dad. I hope you made it safe. Or sometimes, whatever the case may be. So I think it's important to really understand your priorities in life. And for those of you that are in this journey of becoming successful and achieving, understand at the end of the day, the things that really matter are not the things you take with you, are the things that you currently have right in front of you. So take advantage of those. Make sure that those are nourished, those are nurtured as you build your empire, as you build your business, as you build your success. Just make sure that those things are taken care of. And the good news is that then your success will not ruin that. And that's what I find a lot of people regretting when they get to see me as a coach.
You talked about it early in the show about balance and how important that is. And I think, this hustle culture that it's very American, has really kind of hurt a lot of people. And getting to make sure that you're in check with yourself and the people around you. I mean, the job that I had before I launched Heartbeat for Hire was so terrible for me. And the anxiety I felt, the lack of sleep, I was snapping at my family. I was so unhealthy on every level. And had I not been fired and shoved out of the nest, I would never have got to this place where I feel like I'm living my purpose and I'm able to make sure my life is in balance and I'm the healthiest I've ever been. So I agree with everything you said. So what is next for Dr. Fab?
Well, right now, I just finished my 5th book. It's at the editors. We're doing the final thing. And this is my first entrepreneurship book.
Nice.
All of my other books have been health related. And I wanted to bring it out to the world because I want to help people realize that all of this happening around us, economics, job placement, all of this is really a blessing in disguise. But then what can we do to move forward? What can we do to pivot? So I share most of the secrets that I've learned, not only from my clients and myself and other people that I see out there, my friends, is I want people to realize. So I took half of the book on working on your mindset. What are the most practical things that you can do to shift this belief system, mindset things that people are stuck in?
Oh, yeah.
And then I spend the rest of the book giving you action steps of how to materialize, how to make that happen in your personal and professional life. So hopefully that'll be out in about 2 or 3 months. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, I can't wait.
And then, you know, I'm really just enjoying life. I'm really at this stage in my life, I'm really having a high quality of life, and I'm trying to show people that it is possible, no matter where you are in life, to really discover. I call it the Fab Life to play with my name, but it's really a fabulous life. Everybody deserves a fabulous life. And it's a choice, actually, to have a fabulous life. So I show people that process. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, I agree. And you inspire me so, so much. Thank you for being such an amazing guest and sharing your wisdom with us. How do people find you?
Well, if you just go to my website, drfabmancini.com, drfabmancini.com, pretty much there you can find all of my YouTubes, TV, radio appearances, contact me directly if you need to ask me a question or whatever. So I put it all in one place because that way people can from there find out and communicate with me.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or leave a 5-star review at Apple or Spotify. Dr. Fab, I adore you. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest. Take care of each other. Have a great day and lead with heart. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.